about today. Right, a couple of weeks ago I did a video about shooting with a 3-finger under string grip, and I believe I mentioned that that was primarily used for shooting bare bow. So we're going to have a look at bare bow shooting, but in specifically string walking, which is almost exclusively used when shooting bare bow. There's no other reason why you would use string walking other than bare bow. Now, what is string walking? Basically, you're going to walk your string grip up and down the string in order to change your point of aim for any given range. Now, what do I mean? Well, most bare bow shooters will set their bow up to use point of aim, as in the point of the arrow, as the aiming point at full draw at their most commonly shot range. For instance, competitive bare bow shooters will set their bow up so that their point on range, the range at which the point of the arrow at full draw matches where they want to hit, at 50 yards, because that's the range most competitive bare bows are shot at. If you're using field target, you might set that at 40 yards, with the average target being 40 yards, with your long range targets being 80 or thereabouts, and the close range targets being 20. So it depends what type of shooting you're doing. But we'll just go through the basics of what it is. Now we're assuming, or I'm assuming, that you're setting the bow up to shoot an average 50 yards. Most bare bow archers will actually use 2 knocking points, so that you're locking the arrow into place in the same place every time, virtually no movement on the arrow, because the arrow isn't going to move. Your anchor point is going to move. Your point of aim, the arrow point, isn't going to move in relation to the target. You're going to use the point of the arrow to aim at the center of the target where you want to hit in exactly the same way every single time, regardless of range. But what you're going to do is you're going to move your fingers up and down the string. So say for instance you're shooting at 50 yards and your point on range is 50 yards, you've got the arrow set, the bow set at 50 yards, you would draw, and you draw back to your normal anchor point, which could be your nose or whatever. Now, so that's your point on. So you draw it back to your chin, or your normal anchor point, put the point of the arrow on the target where you want it to hit, and loose. Now say for instance, you've got this set of 50, you're shooting at 20. Now you may be lucky, but you'll have to practice this and work it out for yourself. It may be that at 20 yards you're coming down 3 fingers. So from 50 yards to 20 yards you're coming down 3 fingers. Now if you're lucky enough that with your bow, and it will vary with every bow weight, every shooter, you may be lucky enough that coming down to 20 yards, each finger is basically 10 yards. So you're coming down to 20, you come down 3 fingers, and you would mark, so you come down 1, 2, 3 fingers, and you'd mark on the string, put your thumb where those 3 fingers come to an end. See, there's your thumb marking the point there. Then you'll bring the fingers down to the thumb, and that becomes your new drawing point. And then you would use exactly the same draw back to your chin, nose, whatever. Notice how the arrow's that much further up, and that is how you would shoot it. So you're not moving the arrow, you're moving the anchor point. Effectively what you're doing is you're tilting the arrow up, which points it down, which shoots at the closer range. Now if you're lucky, from a 50-yard basic setup, if each finger is 10 yards, if you want to shoot a 10-yard target, you come down 4 fingers, mark it with your thumb, and drop your and that's your 10-yard mark. If you're shooting with a 50, and you want to shoot a 30, you're coming down 2 fingers, because it's 40, 30, and your fingers come underneath. Now you can even go up over. Now don't forget, what you're doing is you're lowering or raising the back of the arrow. The point of the arrow stays on the target at full draw. So if you're going, like say you've got this set at 50, you're shooting at 60, and your fingers are just the right thickness, again, you'll have to work this out for yourself. You go one finger over and shoot your normal anchor. If it's 70, go two fingers over, shoot your normal anchor. At 80, three fingers over, shoot your normal anchor. You see how the arrow goes up and down in relation to your anchor point, and that's what you're doing. Now that's just using a basic rule of thumb, a finger. You can put a mark, just tie a knot with a bit of serving, a different colour piece of serving, at different range points on your string. So if you put a mark at 10 yards, sorry, you set up at 50, put a mark at 40 yards, 30 yards, 20 yards, 10 yards, and then you go to that mark. The same above. Go to 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, and then you simply go up and above and draw to that point. Right. What bows can you use it with? You can use string walking with any bow, but you need to bear in mind that string walking is going to put a lot of strain on the lower limb of the bow, especially at ranges below, most commonly, than your basic setup. So I would recommend, don't do it with any bow shorter than 60, 62 inches. Just purely so because of the strain. I mean, you can do it with shorter bows, but you've just got to be aware it is going to put a strain on the bow. You can use it with any type, any style of bow. Most commonly though, you will get a bare bow combination of a riser and limbs specifically designed for bare bow shooting and string walking. And they're not that much more expensive than standard recurve bows. You can get them fairly cheaply as a good basis set. But there we go. So again, just to recap, set your bow up at your most usually shot range. If you're doing target shooting, you'll set it up at 50. And then, after a lot of practice, you will know exactly, if you want to say for a shoot at 30 yards, you bring your thumb down, marking 1, 2, 3 fingers, if that's how your fingers work out. Then drop your fingers down, and then you draw back to your normal anchor point and loose. Now you can get, when you're shooting 3 fingers under with bare bow, you can get 3 finger under tabs, and these sometimes have marks on them. You're not allowed to put numbers on them, but you can get them that will have 2 or 3 reference marks, which you can use to gauge. Once you've got to know what you're shooting, you can gauge where you are going to move your fingers down, and you do the same thing again. You've got the tab, you bring it down, you find the mark with your thumb on the tab, and then come down to the thumb. You can mark tabs up yourself, but the tabs, if you're shooting competitively, have to be identical. They have to be the same. You can't have one mark bigger than the other, and you can't have numbers or letters. All you can do is, like say for instance, the stitching on a 3-finger tab, you can colour it in. But it's got to be the same size, that sort of thing. But that's another one. So there you go, basics. Basic string walking. You're going to walk your fingers down the string to shoot at, or up the string, to shoot at ranges above or below the range you set your bow up at. So if you set it up at 30, you might come 2 fingers down to shoot at 10. You might go 2 fingers up to shoot at 50. You shoot it at 50, you might go 2 fingers up to shoot at 70, 3 to shoot at 80, 3 to shoot, or comes it down 3 to shoot at 20. It all depends. You'll have to practice. Anyway, hope you found that interesting. Let me know how you get on. If you've got any questions, please feel free, and we'll talk again soon. Stay safe, keep slinging the sticks. Cheers, guys.